Heyo, here we are again, this time for the first real tutorial WarGear school video. I'm a little sick still, I hope that's fine with you. I just didn't want the upload distance to grow beyond a week. I think that's important. So in this first one, I just want to teach about the various ways to prime TNT. That might seem a little silly, but I want to start really simple. Over time, concepts are going to become more advanced. I won't cover redstone basics in detail in this series. There are a lot of good videos about that. Watch them. Just put redstone basics into the YouTube search bar and click on any video really. Maybe make sure that it's somewhat recent. And so yeah, I hope you enjoy this one. So first of all, TNT is primed whenever it comes into contact with direct redstone power. So for example, if you run redstone dust directly into the TNT and then activate that redstone dust with something like a button, the TNT will get primed. As you can see, the running redstone by TNT doesn't activate it. But of course you can also directly power it using something like a button or lever, and that also works. When you place TNT on a powered block, then it also immediately primes. So for example, if there's redstone dust that's activated on a solid block, then that block is powered. And when you place TNT there, it will be primed instantly. Same goes for blocks that you run redstone dust into, or that you have a torch below, or that you run a repeater into, or whatever. But as I said, the block has to be solid. If it's something like glass, then that's considered transparent and doesn't transmit redstone signal. You can also push TNT against a powered block. So for example, a redstone block is just a block that's always powered. And if you push TNT against that, it will also be primed. And you can also power a block while TNT is already there, right? So for example, these blocks will all be powered if I turn on this lever. TNT is already there. Pull the lever, TNT gets activated. In general, you get the concept. Whenever powered redstone and TNT come into contact, it goes boom. Or rather, it gets primed first, right? So next of all, we have observers. Observers are cool. They have this face and then they have a little butt. And whenever this side notices any sort of change directly in front of it, this butt will output a redstone signal. So for example, if the block in front of the observer changes, we get a redstone output. If an entity goes into string, the observer notices that. Or when a state is changed in front of the observer, for example, a fence gate is opened or closed, it also outputs a signal. Why am I telling you about this? Because observers are a very convenient way to prime TNT. For example, here we have a TNT wall and an observer wall directly next to that with the butts facing into the TNT and the faces looking at this set of hoppers and redstone dust. And when I pull this lever, all of the observers will at the same time notice a change before them. Like some observers will notice redstone dust getting activated. Some observers will notice hoppers getting locked. This one will notice the lever switching, and this one will notice the node block getting powered. So when I pull this lever, all of them prime, and that's just a convenient way to prime TNT. A lot of TNT, that is. So next I want to talk about the fact that TNT does a little jump when it is primed. We call that prime motion, and it goes both upwards at, I believe, 0.2 blocks per tick or something, and then it also goes slightly sideways to a random side. And as you can see at the bottom, now the explosions are intervening a little bit, but as you can see at the bottom, when I prime multiple, they all land in different places. And that's because the direction that they jump towards sideways is random, right? So it jumps both a little upwards and a little to the side, and that's extremely important to know. Prime TNT is actually smaller than a full block. That I want to demonstrate that by this little setup. This is just the ladders have solid hitboxes, right? So the TNT couldn't jump upwards or sideways at all. It couldn't jump towards this trapdoor also. But it's still going to do both the upwards jump and the sideways jump a little bit because it is smaller than a full block. And when it's primed, the primed TNT entity is placed in the center of the previous TNT block. So if we look very closely, you can still see it doing the tiniest jump. I'm going to wait and do it again. But I was able to see it. I hope you were able to see it too. Yeah, so even if you primed a bunch of TNT in that exact location, they would still end up not on the same exact coordinates every single time. They would be different. So that means this combination of things, right? The prime motion, the being smaller than a full block, culminates in things like this, where maybe you have a chamber architecture like this. A chamber is just a place in a cannon where TNT is first loaded and then gets primed. Or maybe you have something like this, and then maybe this happens. That was pretty lucky. It can actually randomly jump into that because it's smaller than a block and jumps to the side. And the redstone dust doesn't prevent that because it's not a solid hitbox. So sometimes it'll work, and sometimes it'll jump in there. And you can actually fix this by putting something like a grindstone here. Also, don't mind my full inventory. I just set all this up. Because grindstone doesn't have a full 16 pixel hitbox to the bottom, right? It's solid, but it leaves a little bit of room to the bottom. So the TNT, when primed, can actually jump up and then to the side, but there's this full block to the side, right? So it calculates against that and then falls straight down. And in this setup, it can never get stuck to that side. Sometimes I get a few visual glitches because I'm on a server right now, but ignore that. So something else that's very important to know. When you prime TNT, it will fall through hitboxes that it is already inside of. I'm going to demonstrate this with a fence. Because fences actually have a taller hitbox than what they look like, right? That's just so you can't jump over them because, you know, if the hitbox was just as tall as it is itself, then we could jump on this. But clearly the hitbox is taller. And there are actually mods that visualize the hitboxes of blocks. I don't have one on because I think this information should be intuitive enough, but if you want some help with that, there are mods for that. And so if I prime this TNT, it is already inside of the hitbox of this fence. And while it does do the little jump, that's not enough actually to get out of the hitbox. If it was enough, if it jumped higher, then it would land on top of the fence. But since it never leaves the hitbox of the fence, it will just fall straight through. Also something important and very useful to know. This extends to the following concept that TNT, if it is primed and a hitbox changes in such a way that it is that the primed TNT is now in the hitbox of that other block, it will fall through it. So that might have sounded a little weird, but I'm just going to show what that looks like. Right. The concept is that the primed TNT falls on this trapdoor, which is a bottom block placed trapdoor. And then the trapdoor is activated. Its hitbox changes from being in this horizontal way to being in this vertical way. But that doesn't push the TNT in any sort of way. Like the TNT doesn't get pushed back up by this. Instead, the TNT is then immediately within the trapdoor. And because of that, the TNT will just fall through. Also very useful to know. TNT explodes 4 seconds after being primed by a redstone signal. So that means 80 game ticks or 40 redstone ticks. A game tick is basically a point in time when Minecraft calculates everything once. So that happens every 20th of a second, which means that 20 game ticks are 1 real second. And what gets calculated is everything. So entity positions, block states, everything. And redstone tick is basically a community term that is coined by the fact that most redstone components introduce delays in increments of 2 game ticks. For example, repeaters, right? Like a repeater on default setting has a delay of 2 game ticks or 1 redstone tick. And so 10 redstone ticks are 1 second and 20 game ticks are 1 second. And so yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. And there you see, this will be consistent, always 4 seconds. And then the last concept really is that if TNT can also get primed by explosions of other TNT. And whenever that happens, then they have a random fuse time. Up there, I just said that you always have 4 seconds, but that's only if you activate them with a redstone signal. If they get primed by an explosion, then you get a random fuse time of, I believe, 0.5 to 1.5 seconds. And that just creates these sort of rippling effects. So if I made any mistakes, please correct me. If you have questions, please ask them. If you want to see more WarGear stuff, feel free to like and subscribe. But yeah, that's it for this one.